Yes, our country seems to be going through challenges, serious challenges, and it appears that our leaders are not willing, actually, to confer, as the Bible says, "Come, let's reason together." They are not willing to do that, and I don't understand why. Because clearly there is a problem. And the problem needs to be defined appropriately so that they can be solved. So we are talking about the cost of living. This is what we can see. But what is resulting to the problem with the cost of living? Is it a financial problem, or is it a governance problem? This thing needs to be defined properly. But for that definition to take place, then the leaders need to stop combativeness. They need to put the Kenyans first so that they can sit down and decide. Because what I see as the problem, and because the beginning of addressing or solving a problem is acceptance that you have won, clearly we do have a problem because we are also having what is basically defined as a deficit of trust. A deficit of trust because you see during the campaigns, the president promised us that he would deal in his economic fiscal policies, we will address the downtrodden, we will address the hustlers. But once in power, that's not happened. So that creates a crisis of confidence or crisis of trust. And then he said that he will address wastefulness in government. The first thing he announced was reducing costs. I don't know, he talked about mobilizing over 300 million immediately taking office. And then the controller of budget says the spending peaked. I'm just giving these few examples to show that there is a problem, and there is also a trust issue of which needs to be addressed. So number two is the way we deal with our problems. We are dealing with our problems from the colonial mindset. We have never changed for 60 years. The subsequent Kenyan government have been behaving like a colonial state, like the way the Muzungu behaved. Wherever there was a problem by Africans during the Muzungu days, they used force on us, which was okay then because they were just sitting on us. But then we are now ruling ourselves. So the issue of always resorting to force should not arise. We should be able to reason together with one another without threats, without using force. So again, we are continuing to use force all the time. If we were to reason together, we will see that clearly we don't have a revenue problem, because I can see the contestation is the Finance Act now. But if you look at that act properly and you see what we are doing, without being a very brilliant economist, you can see that we really don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending and corruption problem. Because if you arrest spending and you arrest corruption, you can even lower taxes. You don't even have to increase them. So why do I think it's spending problem? At any given day, you see our minister out of a place with helicopters. They can't interact, and their vehicles will go down on the road to go and pick them. Meanwhile, their people cannot eat. Because you see, the Kenyans who work in hotels, restaurants, and in bars, and these are many people, they earn 300 shillings per day. 300 now can buy you nothing. So you have to skip a meal today. You wait for the following day to make 600. So at least then you can buy unga. And even then you may not have to buy mboga. Okay? Most people are actually putting water. And you put salt in the water. And then you now cook the ugali so that you can eat it indirectly. But then you can say the minister has 4 cars running around with helicopters. It has become a governance by helicopters. So that is a spending issue. That means we have the money. If only we can control our passions, if only we can be Kenyans, if only we don't look like the colonial master, then it's possible to actually make this economy better. So, talking and stopping all restraining ourselves from all the bluster and the chest thumping, and we just sit and reason together, it's possible to see where the problem lies. Because the problem is not the lack of money. The problem is how we are spending the money that we have. That is the problem. Now, what are we really doing? You know, there is a case that we use in the university to train our students how to think, that you don't do the same thing. You know, this was Einstein saying, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is a definition of insanity. So there's a case. This case is about a military barracks where the commandant, officer commanding that barracks, decided to make a platform, a slab, where he can now oversee daily parents. And this slab was not being allowed to dry properly.